Hello and welcome to Study with Sudhir. This is your digital classroom and my name is TS Sudhir. Before we proceed further, a reminder that you need to subscribe to this channel and also press on the bell icon because you will come to know whatever latest updates, whatever latest video lessons relevant to all of you students are being published on this channel. Okay, now that you have done so, let's get started. This is part 2 of the salient features of the Indian Constitution. In part 1, we have spoken about the fundamental rights, universal adult franchise and also single citizenship. We'll deal with the rest of the fundamental rights and also the fundamental duties in this part of the salient features of the Constitution of India. Really the most important book as far as the Republic of India is concerned, right? So now let's come to right number 4, the right to freedom of religion. Now all persons, and this is dealt by articles 25 to 28, all persons are entitled to freedom of conscience and the right to freely profess, practice and propagate their religion. PPP, ये public private partnership नहीं है. Profess, practice and propagate their religion and culture also. Right. So this is something which is guaranteed by the Indian Constitution. Okay, and they can also maintain their institutions for religious or charitable reasons, which is why you see a lot of institutions which deal with the Hindu religion, the Christian religion, the Muslim religion, Islam, etc. So that's all allowed under the Indian Constitution, and they can administer any such property that they acquire as part of these institutions, right? And even though religious instruction may be imparted in educational institutions, which is also done, no person attending such institution shall be compelled to receive that religious instruction without the consent of himself or his guardian. For instance, if I am belonging to a particular religion and I go to a educational institution which is of a different religion, right? So that institution cannot compel me to do certain things if I or my guardians, parents object to it. Okay, so that is also guaranteed under the Indian Constitution. The fifth right is freedom to cultural and educational rights, Article 29 and 30. Basically, it deals with the right to preserve your distinct language, script and culture. Right, because India is also a land of diverse languages and cultures. So a person from say Kerala or Tamil Nadu living in Uttar Pradesh cannot be compelled to forego his cultural moorings and cultural practices just because he is living in a land which does not practice any of those, right? So that kind of discrimination cannot be done. Article 30 gives all the minorities in India, the Muslims, the Christians, the Parsis, the Sikhs, the Jains, the right to establish and administer educational institutions of their choice, right? What I mentioned just a while ago. And the state is also prohibited from discriminating against educational institutions in the manner of grant. So the state cannot say that, oh, because you belong to this religion which I don't approve of, which I don't like, therefore, I mean depending on the political party in power, therefore I will not give you any of the grants. State cannot do so. The sixth one is right to constitutional remedies, and this is coming under Article 32, 32. Basically, this right is given to citizens to move the Supreme Court for the enforcement of other fundamental rights conferred on them, right? Dr. B.R. Ambedkar, while this constitution was being framed, remember in the main chapter on the constitution, we spoke about the Constituent Assembly and the drafting committee, which was headed by Dr. Bhimrao Ambedkar. He called Article 32 and this right to constitutional remedies as the heart and soul of the constitution. It says basically it's not a right but a remedy. In case if there is any kind of infringement, any kind of violation of the rights of an individual, the individual is within his rights to approach the Supreme Court for a remedy. Okay. Now, इसमें आता है the whole thing of writs and you will read about it even in the civics chapter in class 10. अगले साल भी ये syllabus में रहेगा. Okay. Basically, at the heart of this entire remedy process is something called a writ. Okay, a writ is a formal written order issued by the Supreme Court and the High Courts to provide legal remedies to individuals who do not obtain adequate protection under ordinary law. So अगर normal जो प्रावधान है कानून के उसके अंदर उनको किसी तरह की राहत नहीं मिलती है, तो उच्चतम न्यायालय और जो सर्वोच्च न्यायालय और जो उच्च न्यायालय जो हाई कोर्ट्स हैं, दे इशू ए रिटन ऑर्डर एंड दैट इज नोन एज अ रिट. मैं उम्मीद करता हूं कि आपको इस तरह का डेफिनेशन समझ में आया होगा. ओके, so it's not very difficult. If there is some kind of a violation and if you have been deprived of your rights, the Supreme Court and the High Court will issue a written order and that is known as a writ, basic funda. Okay. Now, what are the different kind of writs? And as I said, this is something which is there in civics class 10 as well. First one of course is the habeas corpus, which is the most important. Basically translated into ordinary English, it means to have the body. Habeas corpus, to have the body. Basically, by issuing such a writ, the High Court or the Supreme Court can get the body of any person released if it has been unlawfully detained by either the state or a group of individuals. Sometimes the police kind of detains somebody and then the people, the friends of the person who is kind of missing, they go and file a habeas corpus petition, right? So, this basically is a major safeguard for the personal freedom of any citizen. The second one is called the mandamus. Now, mandamus in Latin means we order. So, you need to know the translations into English, that's important. It means we order, and basically it's an order, a command from a superior court to a lower or an administrative authority and asking him to perform a certain duty. So, that is what is done as a result of mandamus. The third one is the writ of certiorari. It basically says that the court wants to be informed about what is going on. Okay, that is something, it is issued after the order has already been passed by the lower court. Okay, there is also something called the writ of prohibition, which is not in your syllabus, where basically it talks about an order passed when the proceedings are going on, but the writ of certiorari is issued after the order has already been passed by the lower court. Basically, it's a higher court says that we wish to be informed about what is going on. The fourth one is the quo warranto. The writ of prohibition I have already spoken about, issued by a superior court to a lower court to stop proceedings in a case which might be in excess of the jurisdiction of the lower court. The fifth one is quo warranto, which means by what order. It is issued when a person has usurped any office, has kind of occupied any particular office, and it prevents public officers from forcibly or wrongly occupying any public office. So, these are the 5 main writs which are used a lot by different legal authorities, the Supreme Court and the High Court. Okay. Then we come to the right to education. Now, that is something again guaranteed by the Constitution of India. It is guaranteed under the 86th Amendment 2002. A new article 21A was inserted into the Constitution as a result of this amendment, and it said that the state shall provide free and compulsory education to all children of the age 6 to 14 years in such manner as the state may by law determine. So, 6 to 14 years के एज के बीच में बच्चों का एक तरह से कंपल्सरी एजुकेशन is made mandatory by this particular amendment 21A article. Then there is also something called the right to property. Now, it essentially means it's an extension of the earlier one where you can actually acquire property in any part of India. Then there is also the right to information, which is the latest one, which is also known as the RTI Act. Okay, basically it was included in Article 19 as 19(1) of the Constitution. It basically says that any citizen can seek or receive information from the government or other public authorities by filing an RTI application. Okay, he can ask certain questions and the authority is is expected to reply to that RTI application answering the questions which have been asked. He can inspect documents and he can take copies including certified copies of certain documents. Okay, so this is something which is done under the right to information. Now, while the fundamental rights would give you the impression that, the citizen is really all powerful, there are also some kind of reasonable restrictions which are imposed on these fundamental rights. Now, they can be suspended, and please remember this because this can come as an examination question. Now, these can be suspended when the president declares a state of national emergency, in the case of war, external aggression, or an armed rebellion. Okay, but these kind of suspension of fundamental rights is temporary. Okay, then of course in the larger interest of the security of the state, also the fundamental rights can be suspended. Okay, then there are some laws which restrict the use of these fundamental rights. For instance, the Maintenance of Internal Security Act, which was known as MISA, which is something which was used earlier. In fact, Lalu Prasad Yadav, because he was jailed under the Maintenance of Internal Security Act called MISA, he named his daughter, who was born around the same time, as Misa. Misa Bharti is one of the 9 children of Lalu Prasad Yadav, the former Chief Minister of Bihar. So there is that story around her name. Then there is also the Preventive Detention Act, PDA, the National Security Act 1980 ka, that's very important, the ESMA, which we spoke about in the previous section. So under all these sections, इन प्रावधानों के अंदर इन फंडामेंटल राइट्स को सस्पेंड किया जा सकता है. सस्पेंड नहीं, एक तरह से रीजनेबल रिस्ट्रिक्शंस को इंपोज किया जा सकता है. नाउ as far as next we come to the fundamental duties. Okay, rights की तो बात हो गई which are much more detailed. Let's now come to fundamental duties. की अधिकार तो ठीक है, लेकिन आपको कुछ करना भी तो पड़ेगा. You also have some fundamental duties as a citizen of the Republic of India. Now the fundamental duties are basically under Article 51A, and it says to abide by the Constitution and respect its ideals and institutions, the national flag and the national anthem, which is why when the national anthem is played in the cinema hall, you are expected to stand, okay, and respect the national flag and the national anthem, right? To uphold and protect the sovereignty, unity and integrity of India, okay. The other fundamental duty is to defend the country and render national service when you are called to do so, okay. To value and preserve the rich heritage of our culture, so these are some of the fundamental duties which are also part of the Indian Constitution. Now, why are the fundamental duties so important? Okay, अधिकारों की तो बात समझ में आती है, सबको समझ में आती है. ये duties का क्या मतलब है? Basically, it's also to make Indians aware of their social and economic obligations, also to make them aware that they are citizens of this great country and you have a certain kind of a responsibility towards the country. It also kind of tells them that you cannot do certain things, you cannot do something which goes against the unity and integrity of the nation, okay. It also plays a role in strengthening national harmony and national unity in that sense, and basically stirs up a feeling of patriotism. So these are the different fundamental rights, fundamental duties, I beg your pardon. So basically talking about to abide by the Constitution, what I spoke about, to follow noble ideals, to preserve rich cultural heritage, to protect natural environment, that's another of your fundamental duty, to develop a scientific temper, okay, to safeguard public property. ऐसा नहीं है कि buses को आप जलाना शुरू कर दें, that will go against fundamental duty and you can be booked for doing so, apart from being booked for indulging in arson. It's also the duty of parents to ensure that they send their children between the age of 6 to 14 to school compulsorily. So these are also part of fundamental duty. So this is as far as part 2 of our video lessons on the salient features of the Constitution is concerned. I hope this particular chapter is all clear. In part 3 on the salient features of the Constitution, we will deal with the directive principles. Very important. So please stay with us. Please continue to revise all that we have learned. Take down notes because all this will be very useful as and when you approach the examinations. Thank you very much for watching. God bless you.